Madam Chair, there was some discussion that we received in an email about the cost. What do we want to do about that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Carranza, the commission, the staff does budget for traveling every year to at least 2 trips to different racetracks for commission meetings.
Yeah, well, I'm just,
At this time, regarding the fiscal year, would it behoove us to do it after, like the beginning of July meeting as, do we need that money? How much was that? Rosemary sent us an email with, for all the staff.
$3,000 some dollars.
3,600.
3,600.
That was with 5 going,
Uh-huh.
but now there'll only be 3. I think it down a little.
Well, hopefully, I mean, we plan to have other people in those replacements by then, right? That would be in June. So, I think we have to be cognizant of our budget. I am concerned about that. And Ruidoso just happens to be one of the most expensive places to go and stay, as we all know. It's difficult to find a room, less than $200 a night.
But it's better than going all the way to El Paso.
You know, what we could do is, because we do have concerns about the budget, Mr. Trejo, the other commissioners also, is we could approve January through May. And then at our next, maybe by a couple of months going into, before we get into the next fiscal year, kind of have an idea of what we should do.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, if I may ease your mind, we will be fine financially for the travel. It's incorporated into our budget request at the beginning of every fiscal year. I don't see any reason to be concerned or dice this up right now.
Okay, so we would be going to Ruidoso in June 25th for our next commission meeting. So do I have a motion on the floor? Yes, ma'am?
I move to adopt.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Carranza, I just wanted to make the commission aware that I do have a conflict for the January meeting. I'm scheduled to be in another board meeting on that day. I'm sorry. I know. I mean, you're competing with the Board of Pharmacy, so. You can duke it out with them. I just wanted to let you know, I will definitely find somebody to cover.
Oh, you would, okay.
Yeah.
For them, right?
If that's what you wish, I could find somebody to cover for you.
Good job, Commissioner Sanchez. So we have a motion on the floor to adopt as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes, Mr. Trejo?
Madam Chair, we may read the
I was
dates.
going, yeah, I was going to go ahead and read it, but you go ahead. Let me ask if there's any further discussion before you read those dates. Hearing none, please, Mr. Trejo. Would you please read the dates as being proposed from January through June?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the commission, the dates submitted are Thursday, January 16th, 2020, 9 a.m. Albuquerque. Thursday, February 20th, 2020, 9 a.m. Albuquerque. Thursday, March 26th, 2020, 9 a.m. in Albuquerque. Thursday, April 16th, 2020, at 9 a.m. in Albuquerque. Thursday, May 28th, it should read 2020, 9 a.m. in Albuquerque. Thursday, June 25th, 2020, at 9 a.m. in Ruidoso.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trejo. And we will get this information online. I'm sure Mr. Lopez will put it on there, so it's out on the web. And if anybody has any questions, you know how to get a hold of us. So we'll look forward to seeing you in Albuquerque and also in Ruidoso in June. Let's see. Okay, E, ratification of approval for substitution of the official vet at Zia Park.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the commission, we did have our official veterinarian, Dr. Mobley, get sick last week, and Dr. Mark Ashby filled in for him on Saturday, and then Dr. Anderson filled in Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of last week.
Do we have approval for ratification of the approval for substitution official vet at Zia Park? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. F, approval for Sunland Park. 1, simulcast imports for January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and 2, 2019, 2020 officials and introductions.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Justin Dix, Director Racing, Sunland Park. I also have to my left, General Manager, Sunland Park, Rick Paul. Sunland Park is respectfully requesting approval for our simulcast imports for the year January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 as submitted.
Have you had a chance to look at this, Commissioners?
Motion approved.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to know why they want it for a year instead of the current method.
There's a paragraph in here that we need to be compliant with this new procedure that's in place, and I'll let Mr. Trejo discuss that.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I think it may have been 2 years ago in which, in order to be more efficient, rather than approving simulcast every month, that we've requested the racetrack submit their list for the entire upcoming year in November for the approval of the simulcast imports for the following year, just to take care of it in one fell swoop. If there are any additions, then they submit it to us and we seek approval. But,
Or subtractions, right?
or subtractions, yes.
I was the one that made that motion to do that.
Good job.
Okay. Sounds like an efficient way of doing it. I have no problem
Makes
with
more
that.
sense.
Yes. Okay, do I have a motion on the floor to accept, to approve? Yes, Ms.
Leslie
Simpson.
Fincher, the reason I have a concern is, do you remember back when the horsemen wouldn't agree to the simulcast schedule because management was not helping them with some issue they had? So if you okay it for the whole year, then
These are
why does the
imports.
horseman can
Yes, Mr.
to go
Trejo.
forward?
Just Madam Chair, for clarification, that would only be for the export signals.
Mhm. That's what I ventured to say I recalled that, but I wasn't sure. It was a long time ago.
That's why I asked.
Thank you for your questions. So we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Okay, so I have a motion to approve. I mean, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a few announcements that I skipped over. The Sunland Park meet, of course, starts on December 26th, so I wanted to invite all the commissioners to Sunland Park for our New Mexico Racing Commission handicap on Saturday, December 28th. And I would really like to invite Rosemary. I'd probably start tearing up if I go too long about this, but Rosemary, I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done over the years. You're outstanding at your job, but more importantly, you're a great person and you're really going to be missed. So you have a lifetime table at Sunland Park, or at least as long as Rick and I are there. So thank you for all you do. And to the commission, everyone, happy holidays as well, since we're not meeting until January. Our next item for approval is our list of officials. And Rick and I thought it would be a good idea we brought some of our officials here, and we're going to bring them up one at a time, and they'll tell a little bit about what they do and be open for any questions. With the new commission, we thought it would be good we submit these lists, and a lot of time you know the names, but now you'll know some of the faces.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Rick Ball. I know that I can't say a lot, but thank you. Mr. Carraza alluded to the fact that it's a long drive to El Paso, and our meeting for safety inspection comes up on December the 4th. To save you guys a trip, we thought we would bring a number of our officials to you guys and let you hear directly out of their mouth what they do. They understand what's expected of them. They understand the industry problems that we're facing And not just Dustin and I, from the Director of Marketing to our TV personality as well. They understand what's going on within the business. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our track superintendent, Johnny Jameson.
Good morning, Racing Commission. John Jameson, starter, track superintendent, track consultant at other racetracks. First off, thank you for everything. You've done a lot for me throughout the years. I appreciate it. I was raised here, and I started 1958 at Simon. When I seen it this year, I've never seen anything like that. I've been bucked off in that mud back in the 70s, and you had to go hunt for me in the mud. I've never seen the fence lines as clean and contoured like they are, the drainage working well, levelness between the barns, not a weed in sight. The pride shows that what they're accomplishing there, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Moving on with because of that, the track equipment, what they let us to do, and I do a lot of tracks. The Sunland Park allows me to do pretty much anything I need to do to that equipment. They find the money to do it. We've rebuilt the water trucks. We've got 3 perfect ones, good booms, tread tractors. We had a harrow that had a misspacing as to the other one. We completely corrected that this year, so there's no different definition of the racetrack. The rototillers we use extensively, quite expensive to use. They have me 2 of them, and we have plenty of new teeth in line, and they're all working great. And the blade too, which are the 2 most important parts of any racetrack, I feel like. For me, on the racetrack, there's always something about drainage, but I look out through the drainage in the backside's great, and the drainage on the racetrack on the inside, where they actually made it where the water could have someplace to go when it did rain, was extraordinary. That in itself created a lot less problems. They did the same thing at Zia. We've rebuilt our cutting harrow with weights to make it cut deeper, to get it so it doesn't tighten up as much as it used to do at the time. The track surface itself, we got started earlier on it. We've ripped it 3 times, 9 inches deep consistently. It's went across there when the free flowing and moving and doing everything like we did. Then we started setting it up, bringing it back up. It's to that point now. We've already put 10 loads of organics into it. We have 16,000 pounds of gypsum that'll go into it this next week as soon as it stops raining. We have another 16,000 pounds of it sitting in our warehouse, ready to put on it at any time. That is anybody in the Southwest that's ever farmed knows that keeps the soil workable with the carbonates that we have in there. We do a lot of testing there. So we pulled that track back, looked at it, reset the base. It's as good as we're going to get it and as good as it can be. We've contoured the track. Sunland and they had some areas in there that had crowns, but it has no limestone underneath there, so that was just more dirt. And what created problems when it got wet, you just had a muddy area. The racetrack is now contoured. It drains well. We had a big rain the other day, not a spot of water on it this early in the meet. It's been ripped and rototilled both ways, probably 7 times. I've wore out 2 sets of teeth already. It's refreshing, of all the places I get to go, to come to New Mexico after being raised here, to see the progress that's been made here, that they're really coming on the board with the rest of the world. And I'm talking about nice places to go to. I've never seen one cleaner on the backside as I've seen Sunland this year. The allowance to be able to let me take care of my racetrack as I want to and as needed is reaped benefits. I'm a horseman first and foremost. I have 2 phrases whenever I do anything. I have to make things horse-friendly and horseman-friendly. And those are the 2 things. I also said that racetrack, I could want my horse to run on it. And so I'm proud, humbled to be where we're at and to be able to be a part of this thing here. And if you all have any questions for me how I do things, I'm open.
Madam Chair, I got you. Where do you import your material from?
The material,
Yes, sir.
I do not import it anymore. I have it manufactured.
You have manufacturing?
Yes, sir.
There in El Paso? or
Yes, sir.
somewhere?
Job Material makes it for me.
So-
I need
So,
it.
you put something in order and they'll make it
Yes, sir.
exactly what you want?
There has, the problem with our racetracks in New Mexico with so much with our water that we have to use, add a lot of carbonization. Carbonite's just a rock. The dirt that we've used for 61 years is the red, the dirt that we've come around. Well, now there's enough silt and clay in that dirt. What's missing is the key component of one particular grade of sand. I have it made so it's purely washed. I'm not adding any impurities to it. That brings that curve up where it's got shear strength, but it also has structure where it doesn't just turn into solution when it gets wet and splash out from under the water.
So those people do a pretty good job, huh? They just do, commercially?
Yes, sir, mainly, you have to go physically to the plant.
Right.
And tell them what you want, and then you actually have to go see the pile that they're gonna bring it to, because the bucket you get may not be that pile. But I work with a man named Rene at Job Materials. He's been severely chastised by me a few times when it wasn't what I wanted, and we had several conversations yesterday, and he knows what I'm looking for. And we'll start that process next Monday and Tuesday.
That's Job, you said?
Yes, sir, Job Materials.
You know very well. Interesting.
Any other questions?
Impressive.
Bless you all, and I'm proud to be here. Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you.
Good job, by the
Thank
way,
you,
good
James.
job. I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Thank you, Johnny. Johnny's a great asset and a great hire that we had at Sutherland Park. And I take a great pride in working with him, and every time I'm around him, I learn something new. So thank you, Johnny, for everything you do. And he's also our starter and very underrated as a starter. He works with his crew. He's a great leader of people, and we're very proud to have him. Our next official that I wanted to introduce is our Director of Security, Johnny Luna. And our security department we're very proud of. We've gotten a lot of best practices from the NTRA from our security department, so I'll turn it over to Johnny.
Madam Chair, Racing Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. My name is Johnny Luna, Director of Security at Sutherland Park. We wanted to share with you some of the security efforts that we've implemented over the years to enhance the Racing Commission's overall goal of promoting a climate of economic prosperity for horsemen, horse owners, and racetrack management, as well as the safety and welfare for the equine athlete. One of the very first things that we did our 14-15 season was implement a scanning system for our racing licensed visitors to our barn area. That first year alone, it increased the licensing by 60%, so we're really proud of. Some of the positives that have come out of that is being able to have a daily contact with all of our guests that come back to the barn area. We have more now conversations on a daily occurrence, and that keeps the rapport with the racing community at a level that I'm really impressed with and really pleased with over the past 5 years or so. The scanning system just basically reads all the data off the barcode, off the license, and it organizes it into a data sheet that we're able to see names, date of birth, groups assigned to it, expiration dates. That helps us keep track of every individual that visits our barn area. That's also helped the investigator in some of their investigations that they may have. We're able to print out daily logs, weekly logs. We're able to go back.
I'm sorry. I
Yes,
just got
Mr.
one
Commissioner.
question. I have a question on the scanning. But they scan it, do they scan out or just scan?
Yes,
Scan it?
yes, Commissioner.
Both in and out?
Yes, Commissioner, both
Okay,
in and
okay,
out,
I was
yes.
just wondering because that makes more sense to scan in, and you go scan in, you have to scan out. and
Yes.
That way you can.
Yes, Commissioner, it's both, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
No, you're good, sir. And that's really helped us keep track of the visitors that come into the barn area. A lot of the successes we had, as mentioned earlier, it increased the licensing by 60%, but also what it's done is we've been able, because we go hands-on with the license, we touch the license, we scan it ourselves, we have those conversations. We've been able to detect multiple fake IDs that are being made out there. just by the naked eye, they look like a New Mexico racing license that has been issued by the commission. But through the training that we do, what we know to look for, we're able to catch these individuals. Unfortunately, there's not much that we can do as a racetrack other than exclude them off the property. But those individuals aren't licensed through the state, so it's hard to really find them or go through that process. But we do exclude them, and then we do put them on a BOLO list, a be on the lookout list for individuals like that. We also see legit licenses that have been altered. Pictures changed, barcodes have been tampered with, so that we, in the hopes of the individuals that use those licenses, in the hopes that we don't catch that. The other thing that we're able to do is anybody that has an expired license, we're able to catch that immediately and have them go renew their license or whatever the issue may be, they correct that. Yes, Commissioner?
I'm sorry, I got another question. Okay, let's say if I go in, I have my family with me, they want to go see the horses. How is that solved? Let's say you scan mine, and then what about my wife and my kids? Since they don't have a license, is that printed out also in your records or not? That the family came out and everything?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner. Actually, what we do is any visitors that we have that are not licensed have to be signed in by a trainer or owner only.
Okay.
Those visitors are given visitors passes.
So I can't take them in as a commissioner then?
Yes, of course you could, sir.
We'll make
We'll make exceptions, Commissioner. Yes, yes. Actually, we would love to sign you in at any time, so we would love that.
It's a trick, Johnny, no, don't let him in.
Question.
And so what we do is, obviously, we ask what barn area they're going to, and we track them, and there's a time limit. When the track opens up, ready for the race day, we annotate who's still missing, and we'll send security out to see how everything's going, if they're ready to leave for the day, what their visit time is going to be. So we keep really close track of that. So one of the issues that we came across when we started scanning 5 years ago, we started noticing that there was multiple licenses being issued to one individual. Those licenses are lost. The individuals that we catch with those illegitimate licenses confess to the fact that they purchased them from the individual, but it's hard to prove on the other end when the actual licensee says, well, I lost my license, I went and got another one. So it's hard to prove that. But we have seen that multiple licenses that are issued to individuals are being lost and used to enter, to gain access to the barn area.
How do you know what is because of you check the person's bringing it in and make sure they go?
Yes, Commissioner, yes.
Out there,
Yes, sir.
what you do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The other issue that came to light was individuals with the inability to pass drug tests. That when they get licensed, they have to go through the fingerprint and drug testing process. There are some groups that do not have to go through that extent. So we see, for instance, grooms become owners overnight so that they can pass the process to get licenses to go work. My staff takes it upon themselves to understand this process. And so what we do is when we see a groom that has been a groom for years, all of a sudden in possession of an owner's license, what we do as a security staff is we may do randoms of that individual. Owners don't necessarily, they're not mandated to have drug tests. So what we'll do on an occasion is do a random. What we'll also do is keep closer track of that individual that's in the barn area as an owner to see if they're working in the capacity of a groom. So we'll kind of track them down and make visits with them in the barn area as well to see what that status is. We do random weekly barn searches, license checks. We do that frequently. I have staff members that enjoy that, walking through. That also enhances our relationship that we do have with the racing community back there. One of the big improvements that we've made this year is we relocated our Holland barn. The Holland barn was moved to the front of the house, right off of the stable gate 1 area. In the past, it was towards the back of the area. To us, security aspect, the way we looked at it was we wanted individuals that did not live, if you will, in our area to be at front of the house so that we can have better contact, constant contact with those individuals that just visit our area. So we are able to identify individuals that aren't regularly there all the time. We can walk through that barn area and have better communication with them. What we're hoping to do in the long run is kind of isolate those paper trainers that we're trying to get out of the business. So as we see individuals haul in and visit that new haul-in area in the front of the house, we can now keep a closer eye on those individuals, being able to visit them more often as opposed to in the past.
I have a question, another question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Commissioner.
On your hauling barns, do you have cameras in there?
Yes, we are very proud of that fact. We do. I won't go into detail on what and where we have some, but we do.
Well, the reason is because I feel, just walking around the backside and stuff, I feel that that's your dangers, the hauling barns, when they haul in and stuff, because these are people from the outside and stuff, and it seems like they take more of a chance than anyone else, and they really don't have much to lose.
And Commissioner Sanchez, we work with the Racing Commission. If there's people that are targeted, we'll put them in stalls that have camera surveillance. And I know Johnny and his team work with the investigators in that process.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Commissioner. One of the biggest issues that we had experienced over the past couple of years that really, I don't want to say forced us, but encouraged us to relocate the haul-in barn was the jurisdictional issues that the investigator was coming across when trying to search trailers or trucks or what have you. Our old location, there was the State Street was adjacent to the exit of the haul-in area. So we had a lot of trailers just parked out on the street. And that really tied the hands of the investigator and of our staff there. So moving this to the front of the house with ample parking space, that's one of the limitations, or one of the limitations we're going to place upon the haul-ins is that they must park on property. There's going to be a designated area for the haul-in trailers and trucks, so that in case of an investigation, where we allow the investigators to do their job and
That's
not.
a good move, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you,
Very
Commissioner.
smart of you guys.
Thank you,
And
Commissioner.
Commissioners, you'll get complaints about these changes, but these changes are to protect everyone, to protect the assets that owners and traders have back there, so.
Well, you have complete control of that. That's where it's at. If there are trucks or trailers, especially parked out there, you have no control because you have no idea what's there.
And like John
But
is-
if it's on the ground, you can inspect it whatever you want.
Correct,
Yeah.
and that happened to us last year.
Yeah, last year we had an incident where we had individuals out on the road passing stuff over and through the fence.
Yeah.
And as we were doing our routine routes back there, we were doing with the security rovers, we caught that actually. And but as we could do as what we could on the property side, it was hard to go over to the other side and do anything.
You have a drone? I'm just wondering. We recently purchased a couple of drones, and we go around our property and stuff for our jobs, and it makes it a lot, they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yes, Commissioner. Yeah.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Rick Ball, the other thing that we've done since the shooting in El Paso, we have hired an additional surveillance operator, and that surveillance operator does nothing but scan the outside perimeter of the grounds. We've installed approximately 12 to 15 in that area additional surveillance cameras outside, and we specifically installed those cameras down towards the east end of the grandstands, and we made their PTZ cameras. So by Johnny's efforts of what he's doing, so when they enter that road coming in, the surveillance operator downstairs can then go on them until they empty their horses, until they park their trailer. And if Johnny contacts them and says, stay on this trailer, then we've got multiple angles that we can pick up from there. And we can pick up the haul-in barn itself during the unloading process. And we can pick up horses coming up the lane all the way to the back side of the barn area. So if anybody's doing anything on race day and so forth, and in cooperation with the investigator, we've got the capability to almost count the hairs on your knuckle. So we've looked at that extensively, all the way around the grounds too. And we knew several years ago that we had excluded people coming on the grounds during the races. They were coming into the main entrance and then hanging a left and sitting right there. Johnny, and I give him all the kudos in the world, one of these individuals was actually at the bar in the hotel, and surveillance picked him up. Johnny walked over there, didn't approach the suspect, just called his name out. And the guy just spun right around and Johnny busted him just like that. And in the same tone, he got 2 others within 1 catch. So having a good surveillance system has paid off. And then this guy here, I'm sorry, I should have go ahead.
The last few things that I have, yes, Commissioner.
The back gate, so you eliminated that back gate?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner.
We were just gonna have the one staple gate, and like I said, you may hear complaints, but you've heard some of the reasons why we're doing that.
So what about the private barns? How do they get there now, or what's?
We don't have private barns.
I mean, the ones across the street and stuff.
We don't allow them.
You don't allow them?
That's the first thing I locked out when I got there. No.
So no horses coming across the street anymore?
They come across the street in the mornings, but we have 2 of Johnny's security team there. They're checking license from that point as well. Johnny sends his staff across the street to check license over there. We have a list of the people, even the gallop jocks, whoever's coming back and forth. We know who those people are.
Some of those private barns became a Walmart. I think
Yeah.
that you may be referring to.
Okay, I'm just, quick question, how many people do you have in your staff?
Actually, that was my next point,
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
sorry.
So during the racing season, we hire anywhere from 25 to 30 additional security officers.
Additional to what you have?
To what we have, yes. So that puts our number around 35 to 40. So we have adequate staff to take care of all the racing posts, to have rovers that go around the backside, to check in with individuals. So we peak out around 35 to 40, somewhere around that area. With those seasonal employees that we hire, we do try to bring them in at least 2 weeks prior to racing season start so that we can have actual classroom setting training. We go out to the post area and teach them what to look for, what to do, go through all the documentations that they may encounter throughout a racing season, what they need to fill out, so on and so forth.
With the one stable gate, he'll be able to concentrate a lot more of his efforts as well
Yeah.
with the staff.
Exactly.
So that stable gate is manned 24 hours a day, right?
Yes, Commissioner.
And it's open 24 hours?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes. One of the last few things that I have, I just wanted to advise you of the relationships that we have with law enforcement in our area, local, state, and federal. We have weekly discussions with our local law enforcement there in Sunland Park. I have the personal cell phone numbers to the chief, to the deputy chief, the lieutenants, and some of the sergeants on staff, and we communicate constantly. We have open communications as far as what may be going on in the city that may affect us, things that we may see that may affect them overall, or that we may be calling them out for. I'm really proud of that relationship that we have with local law enforcement there.
What about the state police and El Paso police? Because El Paso's right there, so you have complete contact with all of them, right? All entities.
Commissioner Sanchez, what we do is, El Paso, it's a little harder because of the different states. When we had the shooting occur in El Paso on August 3rd, El Paso was on standby. In case anything were to come over to the New Mexico side, they were on standby. Immediately within 10 minutes after being made aware of the shooting, I placed a call to the chief of police of Sunland Park. He happened to be in San Diego at the time, and he had already a SWAT team, if you will, en route to Sunland Park. The state was also standing by, Border Patrol was standing by. They really are a great asset to our racetrack there. They realize what we bring to the state, to the city, and they're always on standby, willing to help us. And then we're really proud of that. As far as utilizing state agencies, most of the time we use them during our Sunland Derby. We'll hire anywhere to about 50 law enforcement officers, which is also including another outside security agency. We hire about 20 to 25 of them, which is, that's led by a Hudspeth County Sheriff officer. That's his agency, and we hire from them. So in all, we have about 50 law enforcement officers, if you would, for our Sunland Derby. So we have a really, really strong relationship with everybody there. And lastly, what I'll touch on, we are currently working with the local law enforcement there in Sunland Park to conduct active shooter training for our property. It's obviously something that you don't want to talk about, but it's something that's reality nowadays, and we have to face. Sunland Park Police Department currently does active shooter training for the schools. The approach for the school versus a casino is totally different. It's night and day. In the schools, they lock down. In a open area, as we are, it's a little harder to do that. So they're in the process of organizing a better plan for our property. We will sit down here in the next month or two to actually go through scenarios and actually involve the staff on the property to prepare them for worst case scenarios. So we're really proud of that.
I have another question. What about concealed weapons? Being that there's more and more people that have concealed weapons. I mean, I know quite a few, my friends, they went to training, got their concealed weapon and so on and so forth because of threats and so on and so forth. How is that handled? How are concealed weapons handled there?
So we try not to make it a public notice that weapons aren't allowed on the property. The way we view it is, if we have signs up on the building as you enter that the 30-06 rule or the 30-07 rule that states you're not allowed to carry open carry or concealed carry, we feel like that's probably an invitation to somebody with ill will, saying, hey, nobody has any weapons on this property. So we don't go that route. But addressing your concern about concealed weapons, obviously it's a little harder to detect that. But when we do detect that, we ask the individual to take the weapon out to their vehicle. We've never to this day, knock on wood, we've never to this day had any issues with anybody being disorderly or anybody disagreeing with our requests. So it's just pretty much just a communication aspect that we have to have with the individual and just advise them that it's not allowed on the property.
Because there's been instances where people who conceal weapons, you know, they're all the ones I know are really good people, and they can protect a lot of people. Like my daughter lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and they had a shooter. She works at this hair salon. They had a shooter at that mall shooting people left and right, and she has a concealed weapon. And what she did, they locked the door, and she had everyone behind her, and she was under the desk with the weapon. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking these questions about the concealed weapon, because all my friends and people I know, including me, I know we have actual concealed weapon, and they're mostly really good people. They will help any way they can.
Yeah, our issue that we struggle with is the fact that weapons, period, are illegal on any racetrack.
Right.
Secondly, because at times during the evening we're considered a bar, and where there's alcohol consumption, weapons are not allowed either. So we've taken it to the extreme as far as not allowing. We've also since the August 3rd shooting in El Paso, we've also made it one of our most concentrated efforts to search bags coming into the building, period. Anything walking onto the gaming floor is checked 99.9% of the time. But it's a little harder once individuals walk in to go to the grandstand, to go into the racing area. But we do random checks in those areas. We try to check every bag that walks into the building, period. So we try to make it as safe as possible. And I understand your point, Commissioner Sanchez, and it would be nice to have those extra safety precautions in place, but it's just a little harder in the position that we're in right now.
I know here at State Fair this last year, they bought these scanners, and you walk through them, and they detect anything. And they were really successful. In fact, I think, leased them to the Balloon Fest also, and they were very successful. They found so much stuff. It's kind of fun. They just walk through the scanners, and they work really well.
One last question. So it looks like you have everything pretty much under control. But I've heard at other tracks, you know, allowing cars in and stuff, everybody's a horseshoer. So how do you handle that type of stuff?
So from 8 p.m., excuse me, 8 p.m. is our curfew. So we don't allow vehicles to enter the backside starting at 8 p.m. That goes all the way through the end of training in the morning, which is about 10:30. After that point, only horseshoers, trainers, owners, vets, racing officials are allowed to drive vehicles towards the backside. Anybody other than that is not allowed to take their vehicles to the back. We make an exception at the very first week when the backside is open, because people will be bringing in items to, you know, as night watchmen and what, so on and so forth. So we make those exceptions, but we do check those items as they come into the area. But other than that, we limit, and we hear it constantly, you know, I need to go back there, I need to drive back there. But that's just one of the things that we will not allow. We will not allow that to happen.
Thank you, very good.
I have a question for you. Regarding your scanning equipment, and I thank you for doing that. I think it makes a big difference doing that. I know our license pictures are very small as compared to other state license. Would it be helpful for us to have a bigger picture, or is not an issue for you?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. Actually, it hasn't been an issue. We've been able to, it's funny though, but we do have individuals that have like 8-year-old pictures on there, and we would like for that maybe to be a little bit more updated. But those individuals, because they've been around the track for many years, we know them, so that hasn't been an issue. But what I would like to see at some point in the future is some type of data sharing that we're able to, when we scan, we're able to see who has been red flagged, who is not allowed on the track. Because right now what we do is, if we see individuals, we have a list of individuals that are not allowed on the track, and we'll go through that manually and check, probably on a weekly basis, to see if we recognize anybody. We also have our in-house exclusions that we've had, and that's checked daily. But as far as the picture of your question, Madam Chair, it's not an issue right now.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I told Johnny there would be no questions today, so. Sorry, Johnny.
Thank you all very much.
You did a great job, John.
Good job.
Thank you, thank you.
Our next official I'd like to bring up is our Director of Marketing, Ethan Linder. And Ethan has a very unique background, gaming, Louisiana, Las Vegas, and I'll turn it over to Ethan.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Ethan Linder. I'm the Director of Marketing at Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino. I'm here actually with a good story today. For those of you who haven't been in the El Paso Sunland Park area for, let's call it the last 4 years, Sunland Park, unfortunately they ripped out the interstate for a 5.7 mile stretch. So 2 miles to our west and 1 mile to our east, 4 exits, the major thoroughfares in our area were completely ripped out. Unfortunately, that had a large impact on revenue and subsequently things like purses and taxes and everything that goes along with that. Q4 2018, the replacement and the kind of the completion of the project, it ended up to, probably call it August, was the main point in which we were able to open our primary exits and all 4 exits. So we've gone from a 2-lane highway to an 8-lane interstate. So the Sunland Park overpass is completely rebuilt. All adjacent exits and entrances to our property have been completely rebuilt. And New Mexico DOT, as recently as last week, opened our main thoroughfare, Sunland Park Drive, to a brand new concrete access road as well. During that time, we did everything we could from a marketing standpoint to really drive revenue both to the racetrack and the casino. We did our best. Ultimately, during road construction, it's very, very difficult. Happily, since those road construction projects have been complete, if you haven't seen the reports recently, the property is operating at an optimal level. Revenues have returned, and subsequently, I think Dustin's pretty pleased with what it's the resulting impact to the purse accounts as well. We're probably going to revert back to 2, 3, 5 years ago from a revenue standpoint. It's the first time in many, many years that Sunland Park revenue is growing at a very rapid rate. So we're very happy with that. Coming to racing specifically, November 1st, November 2nd of this year was the Breeders' Cup. That was the first large push of the Sunland Park marketing effort for racing season this year. We bought a number of live commercials broadcast live during the Breeders' Cup, which was subsequently 8 weeks before the launch of our race season. The next event that we'll have will be December 19th will be our next large racing push, and everything between now and December 19th, we have daily Facebook posts, Outdoor boards actually go up the week after Thanksgiving, which will be about 25% of our media buy. With that, so everybody's comfortable, Southern Park contributes more dollars to our racing advertising campaigns than any other single campaign that Southern Park runs, without question. So for 6 months straight, it's the sole focus of the marketing effort, up to including more than 50% of our marketing buys. That's TV, print, radio in New Mexico, Texas, and the country of Mexico. With that said, we've got a number of events that we plan every year for festivals and things of that nature. They will start as early as January this year. So we have January, February, March, of course, the lead up to the Derby this year in March. So we would have anywhere between 1 or 2 festivals per year in an effort during live racing to draw a new crowd. In many capacities, we'll actually fill our grandstands and Turf Club to capacity with those events. So as per the results, we're continuing to add more events during live racing to build the audiences for live racing. The other thing that we're doing in Q1 of 2020, and it actually starts in December of this year, all casino mailers that can go anywhere between 40,000 to 150,000 mailers per year. The primary focus to our casino customers is actually live racing. The front page of all racing newsletters is live racing returns in December, and that will be the subsequent lead of all casino advertisement for the next 6 months. Starting in January 2020, we're actually targeting our casino customers. The reason we do that is because they play on a card. So the card gives us data, it gives us email addresses and things like that. Racing customers are not as prone to that type of behavior. So what it leads us to is use our casino mailing database to actually invite them for things like private turf club seating. Last year we opened the turf club every Saturday for casino gamblers. So we actually filled our Riley's hospitality room every Saturday with our casino customers as we're trying to get them to gravitate over and learn more about horse racing. So they sat there, call it between race 2 and race 8, we really ran at optimal capacity in those environments. And because of that result from last year, we're going to continue to try to grow that for racing season this year. With that said, we're excited for racing season. We've got a number of marketing individuals behind that will add much more detail to that, but we're excited to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
I've got a question, I've got a little comment. That's why I insist that it's not a casino, it's a racetrack with casino. And you guys definitely get that, because there's no such thing as a casino, in my mind anyways.
Our customers, they're very, very different. And I'm not from the area, but I've worked at a number of tracks, and I was very proud to come work at Southern Park. I've never been at a racetrack where there's thousands of people. I've been to Delta Downs and Louisiana Downs and Fairgrounds. Obviously, you go to a large event, everybody says they're packed. Yeah, 1 day a year. I've never seen a track like Southern Park, and I obviously have not been, unfortunately, to a lot of the other tracks in New Mexico during their live meets. I've been there, not necessarily during live, but Sunland's a special place. It's a special place where you can get people to come out and enjoy the races, and as a marketer, you look to expand upon that and how can you grow it from a Friday, Saturday to event to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday to a Tuesday. It's a fun job, and I think now that the roads have opened up and we're focused as a team on really the goal of horse racing and trying to grow that, I think you'll see meaningful progress at our property this year.
Yeah, those roads were really needed. We did all the work on all the roads there, and that was quite a feat for us because of a lot of night work, all kinds of work there, but that was very well, I mean, they're so outdated for the population that is there now. It's way outdated. You guys really needed that.
They're calling for the west side traffic counts to increase by approximately 40%. So with that, we definitely endured 4 years of pain, but ultimately the long-term growth of the west side of El Paso and the new traffic infrastructures there, we think will be very positive for the property.
I've worked with a lot of marketing directors at Sunland Park, and Ethan has asked more questions about racing, and when he first came aboard, Rick put him in the office next to me, and we drive each other crazy, but Ethan sends racing articles at 8 o'clock at night. He has a passion for horse racing and growing it, so that's why he's here today, and I wanted to thank him for all of his hard work that he's done as well.
And Ethan, I would just like to add that I thought you did an excellent job at the legislative committee meeting in CrowdCon.
Thank you.
It was a good report on some party marketing. So.
Yeah, I think our take, and again, coming from a casino background, working here, it's definitely a unique environment with racing and gaming, and I think as long as everybody works together, I think we can achieve great things, and we're happy to be here.
I'll tell you one thing, we have a lot to learn from you. I mean, it's, you've got a wealth of knowledge, really good.
Well, I look forward to the day when we can sit down and have more conversations, and I know there's a lineup of people behind me, so thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Dustin.
Our last officials that we brought. We're gonna bring them up as a team. Our publicity director, I believe this will be his 31st racing season at Sunland Park, and our new track announcer, Eric Alwyn, and our paddock host, Julie Farr. And Julie has a background of many years, started in California, and I'll turn it over to them.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Burgay, and Commissioners. I'm Eric Alwyn. To my right, as Dustin already introduced, the lovely Julie Farr, our television analyst and paddock hostess, and been doing that now about 3-4 years by yourself, right?
This will be my 4th season here at Sunland. As Dustin mentioned, I started my career in Southern California, worked for Los Alamitos for 8 years and also Hollywood Park. And I'm very familiar with seeing several of these, but especially Commissioner Smith in California. And so I've been involved in racing on every different level and every different breed. So that's what I bring to Sunland Park.
Julie even asked to come to the Rules and Medication meeting yesterday, which
Not
many employees have ever done that since a ring night. So we were wondering if she was feeling okay, but she enjoyed it. So.
I'm passionate about what I do.
Thank you for coming, we appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Madam Chair Burgay, I guess it was 1987. I walked into a Sunland Park press box, and they still couldn't get rid of me. So I hope that I've learned a lot, seen a lot. I've seen the entire New Mexico racing industry blossom, going from, kind of just a regional thing, few big races, great history, long-lasting history, but once gaming came in, world-class horses coming in, us at Sunland Park, just an amazing ascension, and all the other tracks too. The birth of the Sunland Derby, a Kentucky Derby winner out of New Mexico, unheard of, absolutely unheard of. Close one year in 1981, Bold Ego, but the purses and the magnitude of racing.
Oh, we're showing our age now, aren't we?
Sure. It's been a long time, but I've enjoyed every step of it. There's been lots of change, and being a son of a racetrack marketeer, I know Dick Alwyn would be very proud of this young man here, Ethan. Works very hard, studious, and well, thanks to Mr. Ball and Dustin Dix, I'll have a chance to call the races at Sunland. And when you put in some 32 years in racing and primarily been a publicist, I enjoy the heck out of calling races because it's one direct way of putting your passion and fun into a race without getting in the way of the race. And I owe a great debt to, of course, Mr. Cook and Mr. Barber. They allowed me to kind of cut my teeth in calling races and getting some invaluable experiences over the long haul. Because as I've told Dustin, I think Mr. Ball, you don't get good at announcing the first time. You don't get good at tennis the first time. Right? It takes a decade, and you got to know all the fundamentals of it, And I can't keep chasing that little red, yellow ball anymore, Madam Chair. I can't do it. But calling a race, I finally put together the nuances and the fundamentals, and knowing when to get excited, but describing the action, being a storyteller. It's not that I don't like being a publicist, but being an announcer is so direct and immediate, And I've had the opportunity to call so many great races, even a couple of All-Americans because of this young man here let me call him. And I remember the anticipation of being able to call the All-American Futurity and how important it would be, and now to maybe be able to call a Sunland Derby. Well, I'm just ecstatic about it. But I'm not here to talk all about announcing, of course. We have strived over the last decades at Sunland to try to get an ironclad relationship with the media so that they treat us fairly and they cover us, not just lip service. I'm not into writing tons and tons of releases that don't go anywhere. I want them to be printed, both locally and nationally. And that was one of the big challenges of being a publicity director here from '99 on, that you had to serve a lot of people, including people in Kentucky and and the Daily Racing Form, and getting them to trust you. One of my most, heartfelt achievements, I think, was getting to be friends with people like Mary Rampolini from the Daily Racing Form, having her trust me, Evan Hammonds from the Blood Horse, wanting to know all about the Mind That Bird days, There was one time where Evan asked for a picture of Mind That Bird being on the placard or the electronic board at Farmington, Lonnie. And so I've seen some wonderful things in New Mexico racing, and I know that they're going to continue. And I know that Sunland Park's at the forefront of many of those things. Sunland Park has a heart, gives away a lot back to the El Paso Strong Foundation, the Alzheimer's, to Ronald McDonald Fund. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been donated to them over the last few years. The Sunland Gala alone, that one night, generates a ton for Alzheimer's. I'm especially proud of what the Sunland Derby means, and to be the only graded stakes in New Mexico, and being able to send a horse or two to the Kentucky Derby. So we're very proud of that. I'm proud of the media relations that we have. We'll have our annual media brunch on the 19th of December. Is that right, Dustin? Where we invite everybody out. And, I invite the trainers, and usually we're lucky to have Todd Fincher and Justin Evans bring out horse flesh to the paddock where the sports reporters can see them up close and personal, and then we get the meet off to a good start. It's a nice way to start the season right after Christmas. So from my standpoint, I'm really glad to be able to relay all this to you. Julie, do you have some more to add on?
So when I get thrown to in the paddock, my job is to then throw back to the track announcer, and I'm so very happy that I can say the voice of New Mexico racing, Eric Alton. And he's worked very, very hard, and he really should be recognized for his commitment to our sport here locally and on a national level. I really appreciate you.
Same.
Having said that, everything that goes into a day's work at Sunland Park is something that I'm very cognizant of, the fact that we have a signal that reaches over 800 locations worldwide. So the information that I'm putting out, I'm not just walking into the paddock and picking up a program and picking a couple of names. It means it's very much on my mind and in my heart to put out a good product and to give those watching knowledge and information as I interpret it from past performance or insider info, so that we reach everyone. I'm talking to horsemen who are off track watching. I'm talking to seasoned veteran horse players whom we need to support our sport. And possibly I'm talking to someone just walking by seeing our sport for the first time. So I put a lot of thought and dedication into that. There's at least 3 or 4 hours every night that I put in to developing my choices in those races and having some sound information to give out. As well as that, I do post and pre-race interviews. We do handicapping seminars. Everything that we can to encourage the public to be a part of our sport. I think that it's very important. And what you said, and I didn't know you were going to say this, also I deal with TVG on a regular basis, and people from the DRF, the Blood Horse, with strong ties to people like Joe Christofek at Churchill Downs, and you mentioned Mary Rampolini and Kate and Braid are. These are people involved in broadcasting and journalism in our sport that I'm very happy to say that we have good working relationships with, so that we can bring our part of the world to the rest of the world. So I'm very passionate about it, and I'm very proud of what we're doing, and I truly think I must be one of the most fortunate ladies on the planet to work with this group of gentlemen who are more committed to this, and I've seen this in the last 24 hours than I ever knew. And thank you for having me.
Ethan mentioned earlier about the groups that he'd bring in from the casino, and Julie and Eric would actually go down and talk to these people and answer questions. So it wasn't just bringing these casino players out to get them to the horse racing. We went the extra step to try to engage them, and Eric's been here for many decades, and he's changed with the times as well of how publicity's changed, that we're trying to touch people more through social media and things like that. And
Right.
Julie as well works tirelessly with that. So I just wanted to thank them for all they do as well.
Ethan's taught us a lot about that, Facebook live broadcasts and such. My media guide is put online. There's also, we have I think, a strong internet site with all of my releases. I do want to remind everyone in the commission that, there'll be a Christmas gathering here in about a month at Sunland, and Sunland Park is tireless and the people that work there donating lots of great gifts to the children that are local and even in Juarez. And that might be their only Christmas gift that they get. So there's a good give back. Sunland Park has really been a stayer.
Well, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Baugh and Mr. Dix, for bringing your staff in. I think it's important to have a face that feel very comfortable coming and talking with you, asking you questions. Your information has been very informative and helpful, and I just encourage you to strive to be the best, as I think you all, that's probably one of the things that you do within your outreach initiatives and your initiatives with the horsemen and on the backside are to be commended. We appreciate you, and as you have a good relationship with the executive director and staff and commission, and we look forward to working with you in any way to support you. Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Rick, I'd like to say kudos to you. You have put one heck of a group of people together. Congratulations.
Thank you. You're only as good as your team.
That's exactly right.
If
Good
you're,
job.
you've got to be supported by your team, and they do above and beyond.
You come a
every
long
day.
way from Fresno, Frisco, Texas, where you are right now.
Thank you.
I do see it. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with this, Commissioner Smith, Madam Chair, I'm going to respectfully request approval of our 2019-20 officials.
We have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I was worried about that.
We're going to take a 10-minute break, so we'll be back at 10 after.
Oh, dinner. Been there before? I'm glad they took a break there. I can't follow that bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Rick brought his whole team, so he kind of took up the front row. We're good. Sunny and nice right now. Got a little rain yesterday, so it's all right. Beautiful day Monday. Unbelievable day
Keep him not wanting to go to the track. He's always wanting to go to the track. He just wants to go to the track. Nope. That's all he wants to do. Of course, don't want to do anything else. He tolerates us, but he just wants to go that track. That's all he wants. Yeah, he's very well, that's how he's spelled. And he's got a good head, he's not. All he really wants to do is show the track. That's all I was so fast.
Information sharing.
Good to see you, Don.
How you doing?
Good. You gotta go from your town?
Yeah, barely.
Yeah, that was really a
It was a
crazy
blast.
bad.
It was a blast. I can't wait to make it better. I can't believe it's
better.
that's AQHS is the beautiful world.
Well, we part of it. You know,
I don't want to build.
pat yourself on the back.
It's all right.
Well, let me have it all say, circle the character.
Me and Beth got the same.
Oh, I got cards right here. I just did one of my name. Okay. I don't want cards like that. Okay, I'm gonna do that. No, I am, no. You deserve it.
I'm not, can't let someone just get to dominate the whole game.
Well, we need to bring your people next year.
I'll figure out a way to outdo it. Trust me.
Okay. Better. This one come say hello. No, it's nice to be on.
No, it is. You know what? Talk to everybody. So, you know what?
I almost, well,
Well, I probably didn't beat but yeah, I probably did. But if I'm running out of time, I can't. But I mean, they'll be here. So I just won't be I don't want to break the rules. To admit it, I won't, but if you don't see me there, man I'm not sure he can put me in jail.
It's fine.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for me. Okay, yeah. Do you? I think that's a great idea after this year. It's not bad. Hopefully all your years won't go like this. Racing activities, some refreshing. It's a big task and it just takes a lot of work. It takes that's why some of the stuff we have in there, the whole racing activity doesn't fit the racing casino model. Enacted most of it is enacted. Not that that matters too much to us, because we're going to 6-track stuff, just when they set up.
Donnie, how you doing, buddy? What's up, bro? We get snow and get home. It's normal. You go ahead.
You took a break at 10 hours.
A couple inches of this last year.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually open up 18. We went scoring a snow skiing one time. That's right. Did you see? So they take it at the top. The lift is about 200 people in their age from 5 years old to 8 years old. They're all getting on the lift, watching them get on the lift. They go, I'm not going to I get on, one of my skis get hung. Oh yeah. So now you got one ski and I'm shitting my pants. They give it to the guy behind me.
Super impressed, by the way.
I went up and down the mountain one time and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Any trouble, Lonnie?
Thank you.
Huh? You have any trouble? Everything good? I don't think so. I had a an old steak schedule. Somebody did, I didn't know what the secretary did. Other than that, I think I'm good.
We're going to go ahead and get started. I think we left off with G, approval for the Downs and Albuquerque simulcast imports, 2020, December 31st, 2019 third quarter simulcast expense adjustment, and 3 amend 2020 La Fiesta Derby and futurity nomination blanks.
First, that was a tough act to follow you guys. So I'm not even going to try, but I promise I will get them later down the road.
Hopefully you took notes.
We love you, Donnie.
Before I get started, Rosemary, I didn't know you were retiring. What's the saying, the last one to know is the first one to hurt? So we started our racing career down to the mid-'80s. We left to come to the commission, and now they put you in retirement. But if you need a job, you call me. Okay? Before I go to my items, I want to talk a little bit about the challenge. Many people worked extremely hard to put that on. And I'd like to acknowledge them at this time. First, Beth McKinney, our Assistant General Manager. She worked extremely hard putting on the fashion show, and and decorating the Jockey Club. It really was a beautiful thing. Barbara Houston, our mutual manager, Sam Rodriguez, our track superintendent. I had many trainers, and I had 3 jockeys. The jocks room's down below. They come up to my office. 3 different jockeys came up to my office and told me that that was the best running surface they've ever raced on in their career. And that was really nice to hear that. I know I beat myself up a lot when we have to haul a horse off our track. Lo and behold, a fatality. And to hear somebody come in from out, not only from out of state, we had them from Brazil, we had them from Florida, we had them from California, we had them from Canada, we had them from Mexico. And people to come in that far away and tell them how nice our facility was and our track was, that meant a lot. It's going to allow me to maybe less beat myself up a little bit when we have issues. When people from other countries come and tell us how nice our facility was, especially our running surface. Eric Alwyn, our announcer, he emceed a lot of the events for the challenge. He did an awesome job. The New Mexico Horsemen Association to allow us to put that day on. The Mexico Racing Commission, again, to have your blessings. Izzy Trejo worked with us a lot, and Dr. Chastain, who handled all of our pre-race drug testing. Without those people, we wouldn't have been able to pull it off. But we're going to do it next year, and hopefully it's bigger and better than this year.
Very pleased to hear your report, Mr. Cook. And I'll just add to that, if I may, from Janet Van Weber, who sent the Downs a really nice letter commending them for their hard work and made the Challenge Championships a huge success. She was there, and people from her racing council were there also. I think they showed a lot of support from the AQHA to come to New Mexico. And she says, many have said that this year's event was the best we've seen in years. Know that we appreciate you for all that you have done and look forward to collaborating with you again in 2020. So kudos to you for bringing them back again. And you're going to even have more of us out there and supporting you in any way that we can.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Everybody worked extremely hard. Thank you. At this time, Don Cook with the Downs at Albuquerque requesting approval of our simulcast imports from January 1, 2020 through December 31, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, requesting approval of our 2019 third quarter simulcast expense adjustment as submitted.
There's a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, requesting to amend our 2020 La Fiesta Derby, La Fiesta Futurity nomination blanks. Turned out that we were, the original date of August 29th was a week after the All-American trials. I tried to come up with 3 weeks between the trials and the finals, but that put us basically on top of the All-American trials. So we're requesting to move the trials back for the Futurity and Derby to Saturday, September 5th. That still gives us 15 days between the trials and the finals.
When is the All-American done?
I believe they're the 22nd of, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And, yeah, I didn't, when I moved them back 3 weeks, I didn't know I was getting that close to them. I think their trials are a week later than normal. So it put us pretty close on top of them. So it's gonna be tight anyway, but it may give the people that didn't qualify a shot to go into La Fiesta.
Sure.
Yes, do I have any horsemen, breeders? Yes.
Jay Vader, the next horseman. The New Mexico horsemen don't want to move the Futurity away from the state fair. We want to leave it in the state fair. We don't know why he's running on top of the All-American Derby and the sale that's going out there. You know, we think it would hurt the Derby. The Fiesta Derby, you know, to move it. We seem to think it should be in the fair. If it's not in the fair.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
I think we're not moving it up. I don't understand your question.
Well, they seem to think it would hurt, that your Derby would be hurt by the All-American and the sale. by moving it out of the state fair time, you're moving it back, you know? What's wrong with the right was? I mean,
Oh, you're talking about the breed trials?
mhm.
We're trying to get the 3 weeks between the trials and finals statewide, I believe, for these maturities. And that was the thought process, was to have the trials 3 weeks prior to the finals. I did not move the breed maturity trial, just the open.
But it still belongs to the state fair meet, right?
Mhm.
It's still on state fair, yeah.
That's before the state mayor meeting would start even, wouldn't it?
The trials.
You know, theoretically, they've always been in the fair, I guess the state fair meets what they're saying, so. They just really don't wanna move them, you know, they kinda let them leave them where they're at, you know. They just thought it'd be hurt from the All-American and from the sales that they're gonna have up there.
I'm not moving, the blanks were approved, the breed blanks were approved, I'm not messing with the breed trial days. Just the open.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rader. Yes.
Let me ask if Jim
Would you-
Murray, will those trials be run at night?
No.
Because that's the biggest day of the sale at Ruidoso, and the day before the All-American Derby.
Are you talking about the breed trial?
No, the Lafayette trials.
No, those will be during the day.
Any comments from the breeders? Is this news to the breeders, or?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, we, as readers, we haven't discussed that issue, but I think Ms. Murray mentioned that it's a pretty significant conflict. You wonder about participation, attendance, that kind of thing. Where the trainer's gonna be, you know, that's gonna make it tough.
I think I did notify the breeders.
We did discuss that they wanted to have 3 weeks between the trials and the finals, and also for testing purposes, that we needed to have that time. So, you know, if you move them forward, we're not gonna have that time. If you keep them where they are, then it conflicts with the All-American trials. So either way, we're in trouble. So.
I need more days.
I think that Labor Day falls on September 7th this year, and I think that has made a lot of the problems.
Man, her
Right, is the calendar. Right. But is it possible to still move the trials for the breed races? Because it sounds like.
Then it starts getting into a lot of testing issues.
Yes.
You know, we've been taking some horses off the program because of the time to get the hair test to the lab and getting the results back before we enter, and then we get the results back and they're positive. We do have also eligible lists, but we don't want to take horses off the program if, we don't have to. And this should stop that. And I thought we'd been discussing throughout the state that we were all going to go 3 weeks between trials and finals. If we're not going to do that, then I can leave it at 14, 15 days.
There's still conflict with the All-American.
No,
No.
that's why I'm doing this.
No, but I mean, if you put them back to what they were,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
if you have a 2-year-old open horse, you're going to have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
This way you have an option of possibly doing them both.
What percentage of them do both, would you say?
I think last year we had 4 Lafayette, so we're talking 45, 50 head.
Have a question,
Yeah,
Mr. Brown?
I'm Mark Brown on that, and I serve on the AQHA Racing Committee. And the AQHA is pushing to get 3 weeks between the trials too, because this new rules that are going to come through with injecting joints and that on our horses, being out for 14 days. Well, with our races only having time, the time trials and 2 weeks of finals, we won't have time to work on those horses. So that's the other thing why we're looking at asking people to have 3 weeks between their time trials and the fraternity, so that we've got time to work on these horses and make sure that they're safest to get back to the racetrack too. So that's the other thing, it's not just the testing, it's what we can do with our horses too for their safety.
Well, I like hearing that, Mr. Mayor. I think that's something that,
That's something that
I'm
we're looking at.
encouraged by hearing that we're looking at.
And Izzy can,
safety
you know,
of the
like in that
horses.
rule that they're, it's gonna go to the RCI and that, probably, it's being forced upon us. We tried to get them to cut it back to like a 12 days, so we could run the 2-week trials and still have time to work on our horses. And when the horse broke down at Hollywood Park, they bowed their necks and they say, no, it's gonna be that 14 days. And so down the road in that, as we're scheduling these races, that's one big thing these racetracks that's gonna have to look at. Because as these time trials run, we won't have time to make it the safest for our horses.
Excuse me, Mary Barber, New Mexico Bush Breeders, and it has been, I will be honest with you, when I was discussing this with Mr. Cook, I was not thinking about the All-American trials because I wasn't considering open races. However, since then, it has been brought to my attention that there are New Mexico breds that like to participate in the All-American. We have had 2 New Mexico breds do very well in that rate, in the All-American Futurity recently. And I'd hate for them to not participate in the fair as well, that we lose nominations to the fair. So we have this dilemma because of the calendar of whether we move the trials so that the New Mexico breds can go in both, or we keep the trials where they are and we have this time between the trials and the finals for testing and for safety purposes.
And I think it's how the calendar hits this year only. I don't
Yeah,
think
this-
21
September 7th
will
is
be a
Labor Day,
problem.
which is later than
Right. So, as proposed, then we would be looking at the security and the welfare of the horses as proposed, then going back, right?
No, they're talking about moving the breed trials to the 4th or 5th of September also, which I've done with these 2. I think that's what I'm hearing, is to get them off the All-American trial.
That would be I'm getting some head shaking in the negative, I don't know. Let me just ask this question. Is it possible, do we need to have further discussion since this is something that you need to get done by December? Can we wait till the January meeting? I'm just asking just to maybe have further discussion if need be. Is that even a possibility? Does that work with your calendar?
Blanks are already rolling in now. We're already notifying everybody that the change of the trial date. I'm here requesting to change the La Fiesta, Futurity and Derby only, and that's it. My blanks got approved in August, and I didn't hear any complaints from the horse breeders then.
That's correct.
So I don't really know why I'm hearing anything now.
If they got approved, they got approved. This is just that 1 year like that. I mean, and nothing in this world is perfect. So we've got to take what we've got and run with it and move on.
And, you know, my blanks got approved first, Ruidoso came after me, which I understand that's how the calendar falls, so.
Okay. Oh, I think we've had plenty of discussion then, and all I need to know if I have a motion on the floor to approve.
So move.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
I'm just a little confused, are they still gonna stick with the original nominations blanks, or are you gonna change it?
The open blanks, we're changing the trial date on just these 2 open races.
Wouldn't it be better if you just left it the way it was?
No.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, trials are what date? No?
Will be September 5th, Saturday.
And the final will be?
Sunday, September 20th. The final dates didn't change.
Yes, sir, thank you. H, approval for Zia Park, ratification of approval for change in officials and simulcast imports for January 1st through December 31st, 2020. Mr. Becker, would like to say?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Chris Mackerlane, Penn National Gaming representing Zia Park. We have a request for approval of a change in racing officials. This was communicated to Executive Director Trejo at the end of October. Mr. Mayor Newhouse is our new clocker replacing judge, replacing Joy Marlin. We ask for the commission's approval for that change.
There a motion on the floor to ratify the change in officials at Zia Park? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Our second request is for the simulcast imports for the calendar year 2020. That list has been submitted to the commission, reviewed by the commission office, and we ask for approval.
Do I have a motion on the floor to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Trejo?
Madam, I'm sorry, go ahead and vote on this.
Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Trejo?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Mr. McElwain, I believe we also had as far as officials go, we had an adjustment of the vets, racing official veterinarians for approval. And that was because of our vet getting sick, their racing vet moved into the official vet position that we approved earlier today, and Dr. Mary Cap filled in as a racing veterinarian.
Just add that on to the agenda, or what?
I thought I saw something about Mary
It's in
Cap.
here.
It's in there?
Last night it was in here. Yes, it is. It's under Mary Cap, DVM as racing veterinarian who replaced Dr. Mark Ashby on Saturday, November 16th. That was part of the ratification? The ratification of the
And that was
officials.
Oh, the first one, yes, the
Yeah.
first one, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So do we need to?
We already did.
We already did.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr.?
Nothing else. Just on behalf of Zia Park, we also want to congratulate Rosemary on her retirement. We appreciate you keeping us in line over these years, and hopefully whoever's coming in there will do an equally impressive job in that respect.
I've got a question. What about your racing secretary? Did you get all that taken care of?
Racing secretary, we have a racing secretary.
Director of racing?
Director of racing, well,
Racing secretary, all this stuff.
the last.
We had a big old discussion last night.
Correct.
So what was the outcome of that? What was?
Well, we, right now, we do not have a director of racing. We have a racing secretary. The communication from the commission at the last meeting was that was, there was no action at that point, but we will look and
Are
review.
you
it
all
for
still
going forward.
looking at that? And
We will review it. I mean, we're basically at the end of our racing season at this point, so, we'll review and see for the next racing season.
And I would just like to correct one statement. There was action. There was a letter that was to be written by the executive director. We'll be discussing that in executive session, make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Approval for Sunray Park.
Sorry, Mike.
We'll go through these one by one, so I don't have to read them all line. Simulcast imports for January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Lonnie Barber, Director Racing, Sunray Park, and Casino, Madam Chairman of the Commission. I too would like to, I can't follow up a lot of the things that's been given to Rosemary, but I, like Don Cook, remember when she wasn't here and she was down to different places, and it's been a great friendship with horsemen, tracks, and she's done a well of a job. Good luck. At this time, I request approval for our simulcast import for January 1, 2020 through December 31, 2020.
I have a motion, and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
This time, I'd like to ask approval of the 2020 stake schedule. I think the schedule that was in your books and how we got it down here in the mess, we got it here, but I did have the current stake schedule I gave to Rosemary, and it's all been, and the big change was we changed everything from any handicaps to all stakes races, which is self-weighted, which helps us as far as people coming in and question our ability to weight races and all that stuff, and sometimes it gets pretty heated, why their horse didn't get weighted at the end of the race and stuff, and this way, the high weights on money earned and stuff takes care of all that. So, and all of the stakes are the same as they were last year, same added money, same money from the breeders, and I had a lengthy discussion with some of the breeders and board and with Mary Barber, and so we come to the conclusion we could hopefully leave them like they are, although our revenue to purchase is down a little at this time, but then we're gonna try to, hopefully we'll get a little better revenue going into the tax season and stuff, and hopefully we can keep them where they're at. At this time, I'd like to ask for approval of our 2020 stake schedule with corrections.
You have a motion on the floor to.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion from the Horsemen's Association? Yes. Mr. Rader? Oh, you, thumbs up? Okay. Ms. Barber, breeders?
And 3,
Wait, I need to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the next one is our 2020 New Mexico Breeders' Fraternity and Four Corners Fraternity nomination blanks. With our time scheduling and the length of time we're running, we had to back these trials up to get behind Sunland. They run their finals of their breed and one of their open fraternities the last weekend, so we had to back these up a little to give the horses a chance if they wanted to run in these fraternities. And with doing this, we just have about 15 days in between trials and finals. But if we didn't, then we felt like a lot of the people who come to Sunland come to Sunray Park, and we wanted to give all the horsemen and owners a chance to run in these races that we could. So we just have the 15 days in between trials and finals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barber. I see a thumbs up from the Horsemen's Association and the breeders. Thumbs up. Okay, thank you so much. I have a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Stall applications?
Install, this time, number 4, 2020 stall applications. I think they've stayed the same as they did a year ago. We still have language in there where we can ask for horses to be on the ground at a certain time to be tested and stuff like that. That's all still in there. Same way with on our blanks that you just approved. It's on those blanks also.
When is your opening date?
April 24th.
Any comments from the Horsemen's Association? We're good? Breeders' Association? We're good? Okay, do you have a motion on the floor to accept 2020 stall applications?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
At this time, I'd ask approval for condition book officials. I think it was a couple of typographical errors in the conditions on a couple of days that I was been in contact with Director Trejo and Rosemary, and I think those have been corrected.
Okay. We have a thumbs up from the Horsemen's Association. Oh, yes, our director.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, the Mexico Horsemen Association would like additional time to discuss the condition book with management from the track, please.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. Thank you so much for your request. And we will place this on our January meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Why?
Oh, okay.
We're asking for approval today.
That's right. Yes, sir, would you like to add to
Yes,
that?
ma'am. We don't agree with the condition book at this point. We believe we would like to see 2 condition books, and we'd like additional time to discuss that with management, please.
Thank you, Mr. Earhart.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of hardships would that leave by delaying getting the condition book out?
Well, we need to get these out, and we'd like to get them distributed out to other places, and it'll be 2 more months before we can do anything, at least if we delay this. If there's some changes, they can give me some specifics, what they're concerned with. I've heard something, it was over the purse structure, and with the extra 4 days we're running, I mean, it's, don't take a rocket science to figure the purses are gonna be less per day.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Barber, if this is, they have a new executive director, obviously, we want to work with everybody.
Well, sure.
Well, let me just ask you this, maybe we can work this out. If we do not approve this today, but you have this discussion and you notify Executive Director Trejo that you've had a discussion and things have been worked out and agreed to, then we could have it on our agenda in January to ratify.
I understand that. What I would like to ask at this time on record is what is their problems and what is the areas they're concerned with?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Well, I think he has the floor right now, then I'll be happy to let you have it right after he has the answer from Mr. Rader.
Mr. Earhart, could you answer that for me?
I'll let Mr. Rader address that, please.
Lonnie? Our committee would like to have 2 books, therefore halfway through the race, if there's something wrong, we can correct it. If you have 1 book, it's set in stone there, it's gonna run that way. Okay, so we were wishing to have 2 books, which we're trying to, and then the purse structure, Sheila and them believe that it's off some. Okay, and we were discussing at our meeting yesterday. And we were trying to get everything together and send Lonnie a letter to try to work with him to get it corrected here real quickly, within a week or 2, have it corrected, and then we have it okay. They don't like to pay out to the bottom of 1%. They wanted to talk to Sunray about that. They want it like Sunland has it, the rest of the tracks, pay down to 6th place, and then pay a $10 over jog mount for the rest of them. Okay, and we just want to talk to them about those things, and we can do it real quickly.
We haven't changed,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Jay, we haven't changed anything from, we've had this way for the last 2 or 3 years. As far as the 2 books, if we write one 12-day book or 11-day book or however we split it up, before we get into that book, we're gonna have you guys and the commission a copy of a new book before we ever start running. I mean, it's a no-brainer that we should put this all in 1 book and get it, because I don't think the horsemen as trainers, I mean, I trained for 30-odd years. You put in a stall application, but you can't guarantee that you're gonna have those horses or what horses we're gonna have when they get there. So, I mean, it's kind of a random deal that we just took and, as far as the purses, I mean, we tried to do as well as we can with our purse structure. We knew going in that it was gonna be less. I heard some concerns about a maiden allowance purses. They think they're too high because we didn't have but 15,000 last year. We got them 18,000 this year. Last year they said, why can't we get these maiden races up where, and I can go along with the reasoning they had because they get so much money invested in these 2-year-olds, and then they get a chance to break their maiden, at least if they're not good enough to go and be stakes horses or win other races, and they get a little bit of their investment back. And that's why we jumped the maiden races up to $3,000 from last year. And as far as the 2 books, I'm not gonna write 2 books. I don't wanna have to write 2 books, because if we get into one, and before we ever get into the first one, we're gonna have to be writing the second one.
It's only 21 days.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to have 1 book. just because of the time frame, and like you say, you would be doing your first book before or your second book before your first book even got into. I recall some of the complaints last year about the maiden purses and bumped up a little, and so I guess you could argue either way. Whatever way you do, somebody's probably not gonna be fully on board with it, but I personally thought the condition book was acceptable. I appreciate the late coming of Richard, and maybe, you know, going forward, you could start earlier and have these discussions earlier.
Absolutely.
We'll listen to the concerns. I would like to have it approved pending any changes. We can discuss if we feel like there's something that we can do, we'll do it, and have Director Trejo go ahead and okay these with the ratification in January. It's just the fact that I'd like to get some of this stuff out with my stall apps and stuff to go before Christmas, because you know, everybody gonna get busy here pretty soon, and to send them during December.
Part of getting horses to your track is getting this book out.
Yeah.
And, you know, you gotta coordinate with Arizona. We get some horses from there up there and everything. So there is a sense of urgency, I think. Urgent might not be the right word, but there is a reason why we need to get the condition book out. Maybe we can attract some horses from other tracks.
Madam Chair. First of all, y'all have to understand that he's in a hell of a bind, because they have construction all in front of his racetrack. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna figure out whether it's gonna be 15,000 or 18,000 lotting. I mean, I'm not trying to defend everything, but you guys are gonna be in a hell of a mess, trust me. And this is a year which I think we should just let you do what you need to do. I mean, it was a successful meet last year. If anybody wants to argue it wasn't a successful meet, I'd like for them to talk to me. I think it's ridiculous to have you hold up your book.
Like I say, we can listen to their concerns. I've got an open ear all the time, and sometimes I won't go into that. We need a little more communication on the other side, you know, in which we haven't had.
Okay.
Since the race meet, I haven't talked to hardly anyone other than with Tripp. We made effort. We came down and talked to the board, or part of the board, and Mr. Rader sometime back, and we haven't had any communication with the horsemen since.
I think what we'll do, Mr. Barber, is put a motion on the floor, and I would encourage you all to try to work these things out before it comes to the commission. This is all new to me, coming forward, and maybe we need to talk about in the future, setting a date that's clear to the horsemen and the breeders, what the date is that the tracks are looking for to, you know, settle your stall applications and your stakes races. We need to have that out.
We've got that,
Transparent.
excuse me,
So,
we have
okay.
that.
Do I have a motion on the floor to approve, please?
So moved.
And a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next.
And I will get with them, and if there's something that really important, I'll notify Director Trejo of the changes, and we'll go from there.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
This I'm gonna ask to approve the purse structure. We're going, I think, in our estimated and guesstimated, however you want to put it, with this construction, like Commissioner Carrazza said, we've got a lot of things that enter into this as far as the revenue to purses, but we figured from what we projected, we could give away about 166,000 a day. If things stay like they are, or were. We've been down a little this last month and stuff, our revenue to purses have. And we projected a little more money than probably what the race conditions have a little more money in it, the purse structure, than what we really needed to have, but we're hoping things will pick up a little and we can go ahead and go forward with what we've got projected.
Any comments by the Horsemen and the Breeders' Association? Okay. We have a motion on the floor to accept the purse structure for Sunray Park.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Post times?
This time, that's approval for post times. Let me see. I think the weekends, we're gonna start at 1 on Friday. We'll start at 3 o'clock. $3 p.m. will be our post time on Friday, which will be all quarter horse days like we have run in the past. And I have to correct myself, the post times on Saturday and Sunday will be 1:15.
Those are the two sheets that we have.
Yes.
Is that good for you?
I do a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
The
Motion passes.
next item would be the wagering format, which you have on the same pages there as your post times.
Any questions from the Breeders or the Horsemen's Association? Hearing none, do I have a motion on the floor to approve the wagering format?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Gaming and breakage,
Yes, this time, item 9, gaming breakage, I have a letter here from Mary Barber to Breeders. I think you probably have the same.
Ms. Barber, do you have a comment?
We are in agreement.
Horseman is two. Do I have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Yes, this time I'd like to wish you and the commission a happy holidays and a happy new year, and be safe out there.
Thank you. Approval for Ruidoso Downs simulcast imports, January 1st to December 31st, 2020, 2021 Triple Crown nomination blanks, 2020 stake schedule, and gaming and breakage for Ruidoso Downs. Mr. Drew.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Jeff True, Ritos Downs. Simulcast imports, I believe you have a list in front of you that were submitted for approval, and we would request that at this time, please.
So
Motion on the
moved.
floor?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next one is the 2021 Triple Crown nomination form. This is a form that foals of 19 will nominate for the 2021 futurities beginning January 15th. This is, as we spoke last time, this is sort of the marketing effort that's been done for quite a while. Really is an effort to put as many horses into the Triple Crown program before the yearling sales as possible. This form would enable a person to nominate a single horse to 3 races, have 3 payments. We get through the summer, then we start the sales season. After the sales season, the buyers of those horses then nominate individually to the individual 3 races. So this is the first form for 2021, not 2020. And so we're requesting approval of that form. I might add that the conditions that we put in the 2020 forms, the 2020 races, had been duplicated in the 21 form. The primary difference in 2021 is we're going to discontinue the Triple Crown bonus for winning all 3 of those races in 2021. That premium has doubled in the last year. We've never paid it. I'm not sure that it's an incentive for anyone to nominate to the futurities. We will, because we've already obligated ourselves to it, we will have to pay the 2022 Derby bonus, but we'll discontinue those bonuses going forward, beginning with the 2021 Futurity event.
And
So
that's
I'd
for the
request-
goals of 2018. for that.
The 2021 Triple Crown is for foals of 19.
But for the derbies, it says here, a bonus offer of $1 million for the foals of 2018. Is that a typo?
That's for the derbies that
Right,
follow
that's
the
what I said.
21. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry if I misunderstood.
That's okay.
Mr. Trejo, did you all review all this stuff?
Yes, Ms. Rosemary Darley and myself reviewed the nomination list.
They're all good?
Yes.
Do I have an emotion on the floor to approve?
Second.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The next one is the 2020 stake schedule. Somewhat relevant to the discussion that you were having with Mr. Cook. The 2020 year is a bit unusual in that it's going to have 16 weeks between Memorial Day and Labor Day. We have an early Memorial Day of May 22nd. We have a late Labor Day of September 7th. Because of the way the calendar falls, that means 16 weeks. So that may have affected what, some of the overlaps we were talking about before. It's an unusual thing. We haven't added any more stakes races to our event. We've kind of scheduled it out where we think it's best. We did have some input from Mary on the Rita Danley distaff, and that one of those changes is reflected in this schedule. But it's very comparable to years past, with the exception that it's a week longer. And we've got 4 aged quarter horse races that are open, that a person can run at. We now have a broader filly and mare stakes program that is now taking hold across the quarter horse industry nationally. We're pretty pleased with the stakes schedule. Our stakes percentage is still below our contractual agreed upon amount with the New Mexico Horsemen. So ask for approval of that stakes schedule that we'd like to get out.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve the 2020 stakes schedule?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And I just have to add, I always support fillies and mare races, and look at,
The Oaks.
Flash and Roll.
Flash and Roll had a
Flash
great
and
year.
Roll. I mean, she is quarter horse and yana horse.
She's a very nice mare, and she's on a roll. She might be eligible for world champion. I mean, she's got a shot. Really, I'm not sure what you think, but she's a great mare, and she's doing well. And
She wins that champion, she sure does.
she will be if she wins it, and she's got a shot to do that. Some of those old geldings out there in California are going to be tough, but
They're kind of wore out.
we're very pleased with it.
I just had to put a shout out for the fillies.
Don't run against them, Bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't forget about Destiny Miracle.
We think the filly and mare program is very important. I might add, in the stake schedule we just approved, we eliminated a couple of races, and we added some money to the one of the thoroughbred filly and mare races. Made it 50,000, I believe it is. So it would be a black type race. So the thoroughbred deal is getting a little boost, as well as the quarter horse deal at Ruidoso. But to move on, the gaming and breakage is the next request. The New Mexico Horse Breeders Association is showing an adjusted $355,000 for that stakes program. So we'll request approval for that schedule as well.
We are in agreement. And we are in agreement. Okay. Horsemen are in agreement too? All right. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the breakage for Ruidoso Downs? Second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and board, and I would also say congratulations to Rosemary on your retirement. probably have known you less than anyone in here, but it's been a great couple of 3 years, so best of luck to you.
I just want to give Sunland Park acknowledgement for the Oaks, for those Billies. Moving right along here, public comment. Let's see who we have. We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. All right, and we have a 3-minute limit for public comment. Thank you for signing up and wanting to be part of our voice in our industry. We appreciate your participation. First off, we have Fran Kavanaugh, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to suggest that she can speak as long as she wants. She's from Arkansas. I don't want to let
You could take that a lot of ways, but I'm gonna take it in a good way.
Well, we do have a rule that we have to follow. I refer to our council in that because I know at one of our meetings we had somebody that said that so-and-so got a longer time than they did, and they didn't think it was fair. So since we're on public record, to ask our council.
They weren't from Arkansas.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I think in terms of the fairness and consistency for the commission, it would be my recommendation to keep the public comment open for everyone.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Ms. Kavanaugh.
First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come and speak. For those that don't know me, I'm Fran Kavanaugh. I'm an owner breeder of quarter horses. We're based here in New Mexico. In another life, I am also Arkansas State Representative. So I look at racing from 2 different perspectives. As an owner, I want to ask that the commission find a way that we can take owners and hold them responsible for the well-being of their horses. As an owner, my name is on the papers. I'm the one that hires the trainer. I'm the one that pays the bills. If we have owners that continue to stay with trainers that break the rules, or they move from trainer to trainer that have bad tests, we're never going to get rid of the paper trainers. We're never going to get rid of the bad guys. Everyone in here loves their horses and wants what's best for their horses. I want a level playing field for my horses. And that's simple. From the biggest races down to the smallest races, I want a clean, level playing field, even for overnight races. To clean up the problem that the public has a perceived problem with us. And we do have some issues. I'm not gonna say there are bad players, but there's bad players in every industry. But I think the way that we clean up our bad players is we hold the people ultimately responsible for that horse's well-being, and that's me, the owner. I'm the owner. I'm asking that you hold me responsible for the well-being of my horse, of where I choose to put that horse, who I allow to train that horse, who I allow to take care of that horse. I hear trainers say, you know, I get pushed by my owner to win, and that's why I do certain things. I'm sure there are some owners that all they worry about is winning, but I know the vast majority of us and the silent majority of us want our horses to win on their own talent. That's what we're after, and not with these performance-enhancing drugs that we experience from time to time in this industry. We all know that there are certain drugs that are beneficial and therapeutic for animals and they need to be kept, but the drugs that are used to allow the horse to perform at a level that they could not perform at naturally are the ones that we need to talk about. And we need to hold those owners responsible if that's what they want, if they go to those trainers. We need to hold them responsible. Not just the horse, not just the trainer. We need to hold the owner responsible. It's my animal. I'm choosing to put it where I'm choosing to put it. With that, I would say, I don't just come here and say, oh, please do this. I am working with others throughout the U.S. to come up with a state compact that we can try to enter together as states so that we can come to an understanding of what each state is willing to agree to, that we can have licenses that are transferable, that we can have penalties that are straight across the board, that we have, if we have a bad player in Oklahoma, they can't just pick up and go to Indiana, or they can't just pick up and go to California. That's what I'm after, and I'm working on that compact with other ones, and I'm asking that we think about that as we move forward. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much for coming to
Thank you.
New Mexico.
No problem. Thank
It's
you.
a special trip. Look forward to seeing you out there. Representative Zell?
Madam Chair, members, thank y'all very much for allowing me this time. Whenever we're talking about reciprocity from bad trainers moving from one jurisdiction to another, we do have that ability through ARCI. And I'm kind of disillusioned here because we're not doing that within our own state. If a trainer has been ruled off of one track, why is that trainer being allowed to participate at another track? And I have a problem with that because in the past there have been some trainers that have been ruled off at Zia Park and Sunland Park both, but yet they were able to continue on in Albuquerque. And I do talk kind of slow, so anyway, I guess my next concern would be over whenever we're talking about these tests for your trainer's license and everything. Director Trejo and I had quite a few discussions this past summer regarding that. And I was kind of concerned because I received a phone call from a trainer at Ruidoso Downs during the summer months. And because of the way his license fell for renewal, the office was closed that particular day. He was given a book to study to take the test for the next day, and y'all have heard me talk about my Bible. And it's about that thick, and it's every rule and regulation and statute that is in place for the New Mexico racing industry. And he was given a book about that thick to study for the next day racing. Some of those questions that were on that test were not pertinent to becoming a trainer. So I think that not just a standardized test, but where those questions that are asked, a random sample of questions, would be presented whenever a trainer does come in to either take the test or for renewal. But it cannot be something this thick. I don't have time to read all of that, especially in light of all the different things that are included in everything that is in my book. I'm going to continue on with the multiple medication violations. We all have to keep in mind that first off, none of these horses that have come up with positive tests have asked to be given those particular banned substances. They didn't ask for anything other to be fed and watered and cared for. But whenever we're talking about what do we do about that, we need to make a concerted effort that these people that are coming up with multiple bad tests, that particular horse may be pulled, but that trainer continues to race even when they have a horse eligible in that same race because of that horse being scratched. Those are my concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate it.
You have something to add to that?
No.
Just briefly, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Representative Ezel, in lieu of your comments about people being able to race at one racetrack and not the other, those are management excluded people, not commission suspended people. So they're excluded by management, so if another management wants to allow them to run there, that's up to that management team.
But Mr. Trejo, Director Trejo, my concern there is if management has the concerns that that particular trainer may not be allowed on their grounds, shouldn't it give rise to the other track owners on why that person was excluded, and should we follow suit?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Representative Ezel, you would think so.
I would hope so, because evidently there is something wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I've
is the chairman of the AQHA Racing Committee, and I'm here to give the commission, Albuquerque Downs, everybody that's involved in the challenge races. We had one of the most successful challenge meets that we had. We've heard from everybody here on that. It's going to be great for next year. Your licensing committee, or people in the office, they had a lot of work to do and a lot of headaches and that, and they handled it all very professionally. Everything that was done for our challenge, we're very grateful. It was successful, and we really look forward to coming back in that. It's I've never been to one of these things that everybody left happy, and everybody that was in town was happy. The whole town met us with gratitude. And I think it's a real feather in the cap for New Mexico racing and for the challenge program. You know, it's seen on TVG and that. I've personally got comments from around the state or from around the country on that. But very well done on that. I think everybody deserves gratitude in that. And on that hand there, there's a lot of people here that was at our meetings and that Mr. Trejo done a great job on his committee. He took a lot of heat for rule changes that are trying to go and things they're trying to push on. A lot of Mrs. Kavanaugh, her and her husband became major players in the nation. And I'm glad to see them here in New Mexico taking an interest in that, because they're major players at our sales, at our races. And these are the kind of quality people that we need to keep in our sports. And we're doing a lot of things trying to clean it up. And there's things that are coming down the roads that are being forced onto all of us with the integrity rules that they're trying to force on the national level, that we're not going to stop it, but we can get in different groups and get the rules written to what is the best for us and to where we can take care of our animals. Because if it gets forced onto us how it's written now, we're all in trouble. It's not feasible, but we have to go with the legislatures and that. So there again, just basically I was here to say thanks to everybody, Donnie and his crew, Paul. It's a great event, and I'm pleased when I come to these meetings to see the improvements that the New Mexico Racing Commission is making towards the integrity and everything in the sports. You guys are all doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Okay, Rita Stiblet? Oh, Shiplet.
So regardless, what was she saying?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rita Shiplet. I'm on the leadership team for economic development in Raton. And the Commission has received a formal letter from the city manager, Scott Berry, that the city is still very desirous of receiving the 6th license. Raton, for many people don't know, was the very first recipient of a racetrack in New Mexico in 1946. The city believes that re-implementing the track would significantly boost the economy, of course, in Raton's surrounding areas, the community's estate, and the racing industry. Raton sits in an excellent location, northern New Mexico, just off of I-25 and just south of the Colorado border, and traffic flows through the town from numerous states, so it really boosts the economy. Most importantly, Raton would provide another venue for those magnificent animals, the owners, breeders, horsemen, and riders. It would increase for our state tourism, of course, the agriculture, community education, business, many job opportunities, real estate, revenues in general for our state, and of course the racing industry. Want to congratulate Rosemary, whom I don't know, but you have an excellent reputation and highly respected. So my congratulations to you, and my very best to you on your life's journey in the next season. So thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shiplet. Leslie Fincher?
I'm not gonna congratulate her. She signed up to be put through hell, she was see out the whole deal. She's deserting the ship. On the dates, changing forms and this and that, the only track out of the 5 we have that stays the same, Labor Day and Memorial Day, all these other tracks ought to be able to figure their schedules around them, instead of coming here at the last minute requesting changes. That's my thought on the matter. I think they need more dates at Albuquerque, but I've said that before. I wanted to know on the challenge races, where the purse money came from. Was it paid into events? Was it the Bank of America that put up the money? Or was it New Mexico Horsemen?
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, $290,000 came out of the Downs at Albuquerque Purse Fund of the $950,000 that was paid out.
You paid $290?
And the balance was paid through sponsors, Bank of America, Adequan, nomination fees, supplemental fees. So basically 2 live days. Albuquerque paid out about $145,000 a day. So 2 live days of racing was put towards those purses.
There's
So
money
you have-
on the challenge races and that. The participants pay money in, there's an entry fee. They nominate their horses, the money's generated for that, for the purse money and that. Sponsorships, and then the horse track gets up a certain amount of money.
My concern was raised when you made, or somebody did last meeting, that you went to several different tracks and nobody would accept how much money you want, or wouldn't offer enough money to satisfy you.
That's true. The last few years, they was not doing it, and that's one thing that Mr. Blatcher and that, they stepped up and gave us in that. But the majority of the money comes from the AQHA program that they have.
Okay, but $290,000 was the New Mexico Horsemen's money for
Yes.
purses, right? I just wanted to clarify that. There was also a comment that, from TVG, that they were having trouble, the videos weren't very good, which I have to agree, some of them aren't. It's like watching little ants. I don't know if it's a cameraman, but it seems to be, do you all use the same video, people? So why do we have kind of good video from some tracks and not others?
First time I ever heard that.
I don't know, I watch it on the computer, so, but I know I've had other people, and the stewards, God bless them, I don't know how they, some of that when they go around the turn and the guys in the parking lot are, you know, in the field, and you're not even seeing the race. I think that ought to be addressed at some point. And my time's up. Oh, well, we'll let the others till next time.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Okay, at this time, I have a motion to go into a closed session. I move that the commission go into closed executive session to discuss only those matters listed on the agency as closed pursuant to section 10-15-1H, to discuss matters related to the issuance, suspension, renewal, or revocation of a license, to discuss limited personnel matters, to deliberate in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding, to discuss attorney-client privilege matters pertaining to threatened or pending litigation. You roll call to close the meeting?
John Buckington? Yes.
Yes.
Billy Smith?
Yes.
Evelyn Boget?
Yes.
David Hussey?
Yo.
Sanchez? And Webb?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into executive session. Thank you all.